Thank you and welcome to Parker Middle School's annual observance of Memorial Day. Just two quick items before we get into the ceremony. First, just a reminder that at the end of the ceremony, you'll be returning to your team so you can get everything you need then. So you'll be going back to your team and to your homeroom. All right, so don't worry about that. That'll happen at the end. And I'd also like to thank you in advance for your courtesy to your classmates and all the people who are going to be talking to you today. As we begin the ceremony, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the veterans who are here with us. From the Chelmsford Police Force, Officer Zeminski and Officer Callahan. From Parker Middle School, Captain Melissa McIsaac from the U.S. Army, and from our front office, Mrs. Mason from the U.S. Coast Guard. Thank you. It doesn't take a hero to order men to battle. It takes a hero to be one of those who goes into battle. These are words from General Norman Schwarzkopf, Commander-in-Chief of the United States Central Command and leader of all coalition forces in the Persian Gulf War, fought in 1991. Storm Norman, as he was known, understood the courage it took for our service members to go into battle. Today, we have a million heroes who are willing to fight the fight and give up their lives for the country that they love, and for those of us who are here today. General Schwarzkopf passed away in December of 2012, and we remember him with this fitting quote, along with the others who had given their lives to the service of our great country. Memorial Day, officially proclaimed on May 5th in 1868 by General John Logan, the National Commander of the Grand Army of the Republic. In his general order, he declared, "The 30th of May, 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the rebellion. The bodies now lie in almost every city and village and churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but hosts and comrades will, in their own way, arrange fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit." Memorial Day, or Decoration Day as it was called, was first observed on May 30th, 1868, when flowers were placed on the graves of the Union Confederate soldiers at the Arlington National Cemetery. It's appropriate that we gather today as a school community to remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in service of their country. And we're here today to honor them. I would now like to introduce 8th grader Sarah Saliba, who will be facilitating today's ceremony.
There's one veteran we haven't recognized yet, and that is Dr. Parks. Let's please give him a round of applause for his service in the Army. The Chelmsford Police Honor Guard will now open our assembly by raising the American flag with the Parker Middle School 5th grade chorus performing the Star Spangled Banner. and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would now like to ask 8th grader Alyssa Goslin to come to the podium to recite the poem, I Am the Nation by Otto Whitaker.
I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over institutions of learning. I stand guard with the power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I'm flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher. My colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshipped, I'm saluted, I'm loved, I'm revered, I'm respected, and I'm feared. I have fought in every battle, every war for more than 200 years. I was flown at Valley Forge, Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox. I was there at San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, and the Argonne Forest, in Zuo, Rome, and the beaches of Normandy. Guam, Okinawa, Korea, and Khe Saigon, Vietnam, know me, I was there. I led my troops. I was dirty, battle-worn, and tired, but my soldiers cheered me, and I was proud. I've been burned, torn, and trampled in streets of countries I've helped set free, but it does not hurt, for I'm invincible. I've been soiled upon, burned, torn, and trampled in streets of my country, and when it's by those whom I've served in battle, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have sipped the bonds of earth and stood watch over the uncharted frontiers of space from my vantage point on the moon. I have borne silent witness to all America's finest hours, but my finest hours are yet to come. When I'm torn into strips and used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the battlefield, when I'm flown at half-mast to honor my soldier, or when I lay in the trembling arms of a grieving parent at the grave of their fallen son or daughter, I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave over the land of the free and home of the brave.
I would now like to call 6th graders Katie Correa and Ben Branco to the podium to recite the poem Freedom is Not Free by Kelly Strong.
I watched the flag pass by one day. It fluttered in the breeze. A young Marine saluted it, and then he stood at ease. I looked at him in uniform, so young, so tall, so proud. With hair cut square and eyes alert, he'd stand out in any crowd. I thought how many men like him had fallen through the years? How many died on foreign soil? How many mothers' tears? How many pilots' planes shot down? How many foxholes were soldiers' graves? No, freedom is not free.
I heard the sound of taps one night when everything was still. I listened to the bugler play and felt a sudden chill. I wondered just how many times that taps had meant amen when a flag had dreamed a coffin of a brother or a friend. I thought of all the children, of the mothers and the wives, of fathers, sons, and husbands with interrupted lives. I thought about a graveyard at the bottom of the sea of unmarked graves in Arlington. No, freedom isn't free.
Under the direction of Mrs. Tiano, the Parker Middle School Orchestra Band will now perform Armed Forces on Parade.
The Battle of Gettysburg, which lasted for 3 days between July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, contained the bodies of more than 7,500 dead soldiers of the Union's Army of the Potomac and the Confederacy's Army of Northern Virginia. Pennsylvania purchased land for a cemetery to honor those lost in the previous summer's battle and to dedicate to those who died. President Lincoln was invited to the ceremony, whose main speaker was Edward Everett, one of the nation's leading speakers at that time. After Everett's 2-hour-long speech, President Lincoln spoke for just over 2 minutes, reading 10 sentences, 227 words. Sometime afterward, Lincoln remarked, "The world will little know, no longer remember what we say here." After Lincoln's assassination, Senator Charles Sumner commented on what is now considered Lincoln's most famous speech. In his eulogy on the slain president, he called it a monumental act. He said Lincoln was mistaken that the world will little know, no longer remember what we say here. Rather, the Massachusetts senator remarked, "The world noted at once what he said and will never cease to remember it."
I would now like to ask 8th grader Ben Hogan to please come up and read those long remembered words.
The Gettysburg Address. 407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who have fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to that great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
I would now like to ask 5th graders Jessica Jerusalem, Ethan Westaway, Ava Suick, and Nate Hart to come up and read a moving poem from World War I called In Flanders Fields. The poem In Flanders Field was written in 1915 during World War I by a Canadian Army doctor named John McCrae. McCrae tended to soldiers wounded on battlefields and in trenches near northern France and southwest Belgium. Although he had been a doctor for years, it was impossible for him to get used to the suffering and death of his many fellow comrades. One death particularly affected McCrae. McCrae witnessed the death of a young friend and former student killed by a shell burst. The next evening, McCrae vented his anguish by composing a poem. As McCrae sat there, he could see the wild poppies that sprang up from the ditches and the graves in front of him. The fields in Flanders became the burial ground for many fallen soldiers. In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row. The marker place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below.
We are the dead short days ago. We lived till dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders field.
Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Sixth grader William Petrilli III wrote a Memorial Day poem for his social studies class and will now recite this patriotic poem for our school.
Even though we know we might die, we still held our flags high. We said our final goodbye as we flew off into the sky. We went marching into this doom. Soon as we entered, everything went boom. These men once all played ball, now they all had to fall. Silver wings upon their chests, those men were America's best. The pride they gave to us all, because of whom we stand tall. We use poppies today to remember the men that went marching away. Death is a wound no one can heal. Love is a memory no one can steal.
Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God. This is the inscription on the tomb of the unknown soldier, a monument dedicated to American servicemen who have died in battle without their remains being identified. This monument, located at the Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia, is a memorial to the American dead of World Wars I, World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. On November 11, 1921, an unidentified soldier who had been killed in France during World War I was buried in a temporary crypt. The completed tomb was dedicated as the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier on November 11, 1932. On Memorial Day in 1958, the bodies of two other unknown soldiers, one of whom died in World War II, the other during the Korean War, were buried in the tomb, which was renamed the Tomb of the Unknowns. It has been patrolled continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, since 1930. The tomb guard marches 21 steps down the black mat behind the tomb, turns, faces east for 21 seconds, turns, faces north for 21 seconds, and then takes 21 steps down the mat and repeats that process. After the turn, they execute a sharp shoulder arms movement to place the weapon on the shoulder closest to the visitors to signify that he stands between the tomb and any possible threat. 21 was chosen because it symbolizes the highest military honor that can be bestowed, the 21-gun salute.
I would now like to ask 7th grader Ananya Tripathi to come up to the podium to read a poem called 21 Steps. 21 Steps. Arlington, where our unknown soldier lies, the place to honor those who gave their lives. Those that died that generations be free, may we remember them through eternity. This unknown soldier guarded day and night, by the choice of a few and with all their might, to show mankind their respect and dignity, to those who defended on our lives and liberty. 21 steps. He takes 21 steps. Eyes locked in honor for the soldier he guards, in 21 seconds before he turns, to honor the soldiers who never returned. 21 steps until the end of time, for our lost soldiers we cannot find. They gave our lives for you and me, the price paid to preserve our dignity. So let's take 21 steps, just 21 steps. Lock our eyes in honor for our soldiers that died, and think for 21 seconds about their sacrifice to preserve our freedom and our children's lives. Thank you. Seventh grader Parker Kinney will now read a poem called Heroes Unaware by Mark A. Wright.
I first saw him on a park bench. I've seen him every day, sitting in a shady grove where my children come to play. Sometimes he feeds the birds and squirrels or whittles little toys. Sometimes he just sits and smiles at the laughing girls and boys. And I've never paid him any mind till one day just this year. I noticed that he wore a frown and on his cheek a tear. When I asked him why he seemed so down, he looked up and began to say, I lost half my friends 60 years ago today. He told me of the terror as he fought to reach dry land. By the time he reached the beachhead was secure, half his friends lay in the sand. That was just one long day. He fought for 4 years more, and the 60 years from then to now have not dimmed his sights of war. He said they have reunions just to keep in touch and share. For each comrade who has gone on, they leave an empty chair. Well, his park bench has been empty now, about 6 months or so, and if I never took the time, then I never would have known that sitting on that simple bench, with breadcrumbs and little toys, was a man who gave his all to guarantee my daily joys. So give thanks to all the men and women who are still here or have gone before, and made the highest sacrifice in both peacetime and war. Because they bought our freedom, paid their own blood, sweat, and tears, they endured the heartache of those empty chairs for all these years. So please do not ignore them or speed by without a care, because you never know when you might pass by a hero unaware.
TAPS is a bugle call and is played by the military at burial and memorial services, wreath-laying ceremonies, to accompany the lowering of the flag, and to signal the lights out command at day's end. TAPS is performed by a solo bugler without any embellishments. Although sometimes performed with an echo, TAPS is meant to be sounded by a single bugler. Would everybody please stand up and respectfully listen as our very own Mr. Linsner will sound TAPS for the closing of our ceremony.
Thank you, Mr. Linsner. As we conclude today's ceremony, I just have a few quick comments and some folks we'd like to recognize. I'd like to say thank you first to Chelmsford Telemedia, who is always very supportive, so both filming and helping us with the sound today. Thank you, Chelmsford Telemedia. We really appreciate your ongoing support. Thank you to Mr. Linsner, Ms. Tiano, Ms. Siegel, who chipped in for all the music, and thank you to our talented musicians for performing today. Thank you to our student speakers. I will tell you, it's not easy to get up here in front of your entire school and your peers, but these folks did it, and they did a wonderful job. Thank you all. Speaking of that, how about a big round of applause for Sarah? I think she's going to come back next year and do my part and do the whole thing. I'd like to say thank you to our police department, Chelmsford Honor Guard, not only for being here today, but for what you folks do for us every day. We're very fortunate to have you, and we appreciate everything you do for our community. And finally, I'd like to say thank you, to the students, to the staff, for being a respectful audience. I hope you enjoy the long weekend, and please remember, never pass up an opportunity to thank a veteran. Enjoy the weekend.